My name's Reese, I'm an engineer based in the south of Ireland, and I'm rebuilding a steel yacht, and I'm hoping to sail it around the world in the next 3 years. The boat was built in Holland in the very early 80s. She's based on a Dick Koopman design, a Vanguard 1150. So she was built in Holland and then refitted. I think she was finished out in Switzerland. She was registered originally in Switzerland. And a Swiss guy who actually sailed it into the Med and up and around to Ireland. And he arrived here in probably the late 90s, where the boat was actually destroyed by a really, really bad fire. The boat was then kind of moved around between owners for the last maybe 10, 15 years, and I've taken it on now to finish it off. The guy I bought it off originally, or the guy I just bought it off, he actually did a huge amount of steel work, so the boat is really, really good as it is. I'm just going to come in basically and rig it, paint it, finish it out, and a little bit of steel work, but mostly just fitting it out. So this isn't actually my first boat. This is my second boat restoration. I had a plastic boat before this, but I always knew I really wanted a steel boat. The reason I always wanted a steel boat is when I was in college, my best friend Errol I used to live with, he used to take me sailing on his steel boat. It was actually built in this yard, and we used to sail around Baltimore, and I kind of got hooked on it from there. And I knew always that I wanted a steel boat, and what really solidified it for me was I did an Atlantic crossing in the December that was just gone, and it was just the best experience of my life, so I decided that I wanted to do it too, but I wanted to do it on the steel boat. So Errol basically taught me how to sail. I've done probably 95% of my sailing with Errol. So over the last few years I've been watching kind of sailing documentaries on YouTube and stuff. But one that really caught my eye was a documentary called Chasing Bubbles. It was about Captain Alex Rust, and he was basically a guy who absolutely loved travelling. And he was working on Wall Street, so he was quite a successful guy, and he just started living in his car outside where he worked to save up so he could buy a boat to go full-time sailing, and he'd never even been on a boat, so he was a bit of a lunatic, but it's a great documentary. And what it really did for me was it made me realise that if I decided if I wanted to do this, I'd have to make some sacrifices. So I started living in my own van. It's kind of a stepping stones towards going sailing and moving into this boat. It's about 30 square feet of living space. It's interesting. So I lived in it over the winter as well. It was pretty cold in there. But the reason I'm doing that is so that I can save pretty much all of my available funds, so I can put it into this project. I've pretty much spent all of my money on it. So that basically whenever anyone ever says to me, how much is it costing, I just tell them it's costing them everything, because that's basically what it is costing. But no, I mean, I'm living in the van just to save up and live this dream really, and I'm enjoying every second of it. A question that a lot of people ask me is, why didn't I just buy a boat that was in one piece and that I could move into, do a bit of work and go sailing on? There's a few reasons behind that. Every boat that I did look at before I bought this boat, it didn't really have the layout that I wanted, or it wasn't in the condition that I wanted, or I would have had to completely rebuild it from the ground up anyway. I had my eye on this boat for maybe 3 years before I decided to actually approach the owner and ask him if he wanted to sell it. And when I did, he was interested, so it was kind of, I bided my time for a few years and I saved up. But anything else I looked at was beyond what I wanted to do, so I decided to start pretty much from scratch. I love a challenge, and if something can be learned, I'll do it. And I have very little experience with carpentry, I have very little experience with woodwork, but as I go, I'm picking these skills up, and they're going to be skills that I'm going to have forever. I love a challenge, I love going on adventures, so this just seemed like the perfect thing for me, and I feel completely at home doing it, whereas before I'd be sitting at my desk wondering what am I going to do with my life, and the whole idea of buying a house, having a mortgage, kids, moving on to that, it's never appealed to me, so it feels right, it feels like what I'm supposed to be doing. So by the end of this year, so basically within the next 6 months, I want to take the boat from where it is right now to being basically a house where I'm living full time. So if you want to see basically a weekly update of how that's going and see some pretty intense progress, then definitely follow along.